Despite being the world's best-selling car, the Toyota Corolla has often been regarded as a bit dull but worthy, so much so that Toyota tried to give it an image boost by abandoning the Corolla nameplate in Europe in the mid-noughties in favour of the Auris. Now though, the Corolla is back, and in design terms at least, you certainly couldn't call it dull. In fact, with its slim headlights, torque curves and neat rear, it surely vies with the Mazda 3 and Ford Focus to be the best looking family hatchback on sale, and the Touring Sports Estate version isn't bad either. Like the Auris, the Corolla is available with a plain petrol unit, 1.2 turbo, but most buyers will go for the hybrid. Unlike the Auris, there's two hybrid options. Now, why am I opening the boot when I'm talking about the engine? It's because if you go for the more powerful hybrid option, a new 2 litre, then you end up losing quite a bit of boot space because there's no room for the battery in the engine bay. It gets moved under here. You lose around 50 litres. This is the 1.8, so you do get the bigger boot. However, by class standards, it's still on the small side. It's smaller than you'll find in a Volkswagen Golf, and there are also a couple of things with it that aren't great, such as this big chunky loading lip. And if I fold the rear seats, you will see, if you peer in there, you still get quite a big step in the floor here, and because there's no height adjustable boot floor, there's no way to level that out. It's smaller than average in the back here too, and these back doors really don't open that wide. So much so that our cameraman Dave has been complaining that he could barely get the right angle for the shot, and that's never actually happened in one of our test drive reviews before. Now, what does that actually mean for someone sitting back here? Well, I'm 5'11", and there's just enough legroom. These front seats are really quite chunky, so they seem to take up a lot of space. They're very comfortable when you're in them, but less good for someone in the back. Headroom, just about okay. And if you want to get 3 across here, this transmission tunnel's not too high, so that does help, but it does feel very narrow back here. One bit of good news though, if you're a parent with an ISOFIX child seat to put in, these points are nice and easy to access. Indeed, the Corolla excels for safety full stop, with a maximum 5-star score in Euro NCAP crash tests and a standard list of equipment on hybrid models that includes autonomous emergency braking, lane keeping assist, road sign assist and an airbag for the driver's knees. In times gone by, if you would have climbed into a Corolla or even an Auris for that matter, the dashboard you would have been presented with would have been about as memorable as microwave chips. But this car is actually really good. Toyota has made massive strides in terms of the finish, some nice materials in here. It feels modern and solid. It feels really nice. But also the design of it is much smarter. And then just things like this leather on the steering wheel is soft and supple. It feels nice to hold. And yeah, there are a few sort of harder plastics lower down, but generally this thing has a really nice interior. The instrument binnacle consists of a pair of analog dials that flank a digital colour screen. Although not as comprehensive as the digital dash you'll find in a VW Golf, it still displays relevant trip and fuel economy information and is easy to use. In terms of the controls around here, you've got a separate panel for heating controls. This is nice and easy to use. And then you have this touch to 8-inch infotainment system. Now, this looks very smart. It's kind of one of these stuck on tablet designs. It's mounted nice and high up on the dashboard, so it's not too difficult to sort of get a glance at it and see what you're doing. The menu structure is not bad. The sat-nav is okay. It's not the most responsive system that we've used. But the biggest bugbear with this is that you can't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. That seems like a major drawback. It might actually put some people off buying a Corolla. The first things that you'll probably pick up on when you start to drive the Corolla is that it feels solid and it feels safe and refined and comfortable. Even in this XL spec on its 18-inch wheels, it's still a fundamentally comfortable car. The ride is really quite well damped. It also feels quite cocooned in here. The driving position is good. It's almost, hesitate to say it, but it almost feels like quite a sporty place to be. The downside, as we're so used to saying with modern cars, is that rear visibility isn't great, and the over-the-shoulder view in particular is bad. Thankfully, all Corollas come with a reversing camera as standard equipment. Other standard features include heated seats, LED headlights and a DAB radio. While we are used to this 1.8 litre hybrid drivetrain in the Prius and in the CHR, its installation in the Corolla does seem to be particularly good. In the past, with this Toyota hybrid system, you would put your foot down and the CVT gearbox would cause the revs to soar and it would be noisy and uncomfortable. But while this still has a CVT and while the revs do still pick up when you put your foot down, you feel much more isolated from any noise or harshness. It's certainly not quick though. The 0 to 62 mph sprint takes 10.9 seconds and acceleration above 60 miles per hour is fairly leisurely. In fairness, once this 1.8 litre hybrid Corolla is up to motorway speeds, it'll sit and cruise very happily indeed. And because of the instant response you get from the electric motor, it does feel quite perky actually when you accelerate off the line, particularly if you use this dial down here to put the car into sport mode. Having said that, if you do want the best performance possible from your Corolla hybrid, we would recommend having a look at the 2 litre model instead, which is quite a bit quicker. The other thing that might surprise you about the Corolla hybrid, no matter which model you go for, is the handling, because where old Corollas were incredibly boring, this one's not. It's actually fairly responsive. It's not a bad car to take down a twisty road. Admittedly, a Mazda 3 or a Ford Focus will put a bigger smile on your face, but for an economy-focused car, this Toyota is more satisfying than you might expect, with accurate steering and decent body control. As far as economy goes, the Corolla hybrid is, as you would hope, outstanding, and that's real-world economy as well. We've been driving this car in mixed conditions and lots of miles, and we've been getting an easy 50 to 55 miles per gallon. That's without trying to drive with economy in mind as well. Plus, it will do all of this without having to plug it in. It's not a plug-in hybrid. It just balances petrol and electric by itself and does it all for you. The downside is that the electric-only range is limited to around a mile or so, and it's very sensitive as well. So if you push the throttle a bit too hard, for example, then the petrol engine will kick in just like that. Wow, that was perfectly timed. Having said that, it's not just at low-speed driving where you benefit from having electric power. In fact, the whole time you can feel the electric motors helping out, and if you're coasting, for example, the engine will cut out to help maximise economy. And better still, Toyota system does this so smoothly that half the time you barely even feel it happening. In fact, I think that word smooth kind of sums up this Corolla perfectly. Its return is very welcome indeed. Is this new Corolla enough to tempt you into our hybrid hatchback, or would you prefer a conventional petrol or diesel model instead? Let us know in the comments, and as ever, please don't forget to subscribe, as well as checking out cargurus.co.uk to find great deals from top-rated dealers when it comes to finding your next car.